Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle Mitchell. I am the CEO and founder of Black Women in Clinical Research. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have our lovely hosts, my lovely co-host, Rashida Hall and Drika Thomas. Tonight, we are going to be talking about clinical trial coordinators with our speakers, Shaniqua Wilson and Rakia Butler. So I'm just going to start and have Rashida and Andrika introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight. I am Rashida. I've been in the clinical research industry a little over, I think, 12 years at this point. The bulk of my experience has been as a CRA, but I've also done project management more recently. And I'm really excited for everyone to be a part of this call tonight.
Thank you so much, Rashida. Andrika.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrika Thomas. I've been in the clinical research industry on the site side for several years. I am currently a pediatric oncology project manager. I started off in the laboratory doing bench work, so there is a space for you in this industry as well. And if you're wanting to enter the industry, the roles we're going to speak about tonight are the perfect entry-level roles. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Andrika. Shaniqua, you can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Shaniqua Wilson, and I'm going to talk about the clinical trial coordinator. I am currently a CRA, but I'm going to talk about the CTC position and an entry-level position into the industry, and hopefully I can give you some of my background and help you get into the industry.
Thank you, Shaniqua. Rakia.
Hi, I'm Rakia Butler. I am a clinical trial assistant, and I'm so excited to talk about my role tonight.
Thank you. Okay, Rakia, where are you from?
I'm from Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. So can you describe what is a clinical trial coordinator or assistant, and what is your typical work day? Shaniqua?
So a clinical trial coordinator is the support role to the project team. So I support, when I was doing it, I supported the CRA, the RSM, the CTM, and the project manager doing administrative roles. And I would make sure that everything is tracked in CTMS, make sure all essential docs are filed in Viva Vault. I made sure the site was always audit ready. I managed about 50 sites, making sure that all of their documents were in place and they were audit ready at all times. I supported the CTM. It depends on which CTM you work for in your role. So I supported a lot of administrative work, and that was because those are my skills. So I sent out flyers. I would anything that she would ask for, like pretty much administratively, I would do in also in conjunction with making sure the essential docs are kept up to date, and also making sure that everything is tracked. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, ensure that IRB submissions and approvals are tracked and filed. So it's pretty much after the site is handed over from study startup, you manage the site and all of the essential docs and all of the audit documents. All of the documents to make sure they're audit ready. You manage that throughout the study.
Thank you, Shaniqua. Rakia.
So piggybacking off of Shaniqua, I also do the same thing as a clinical trial assistant, but my role varies as far as I also support the CRAs and the project team, and I'm always interfacing with the clinical leads, and my tasks could vary from helping out with different flyers for project management, and I'm also updating the trial master file that we have, and I'm updating documents, sending in documents, making sure they're audit ready. And then I'm also assisting the CRAs with whatever administrative tasks they need, which could be anything from study startup, reaching out for site outreach, and also closing, answering queries whenever it's needed.
Okay, thank you. So I know a lot of times people always wonder when entering in the clinical research industry, how does one enter the field without any experience? So if you guys could give just a little bit background of how you were able to enter in this role.
This is Shaniqua. I played heavily on my administrative skills because I came from a legal background. And I was the support to the director for a local government. So I had really great administrative skills. So I applied for a lot of positions that did not fit. So I can't remember how CTC came up with PPD, but a lot of the job description was talking about administrative skills. So I heavily played on my skills with Excel. I played on organizational skills. They said they needed someone to make sure that everything was in order, that if the CRA came looking for something, I knew where it was. So I played up on my administrative skills. But also, I know a lot of people say don't take classes, don't pay for classes. I was about to pay for the class, but I ended up getting a scholarship. I went through what is it called? CRA Academy. I went through that academy and I won a scholarship. And from winning the scholarship, he posted me on his Instagram or LinkedIn. Danielle reached out to me from that point. I joined Black Women in Clinical Research and boom, it went from there. So that was the networking side of it. So when I got over into Black Women in Clinical Research, now Dan's class helped a lot because I didn't have any background in clinical research. So I didn't know the lingo. I didn't know how to talk clinical research. I didn't know what essential docs were. I didn't know what a CTMS was. I knew nothing about clinical research. So the class helped a lot with that aspect of it. The networking helped with everything else. To have the support of someone. If you had a question about a position, that's where Black Women in Clinical Research came in. At that time, I think you were just getting resume service and all of that going, but I reached out to people and asked them to review. Andrika looked over my resume. She prepped me. She talked to me. She talked through DMs. Of course, they have services now. Daniel has services set up now where you can make an appointment and actually get that service done. But I think also watching YouTube. Anytime I would apply for a position, I'd go into YouTube, type it in. I'd go to Google and type it in. I'd also search anything that I'll just put it in Google. Whatever the position was, I put it in Google and see what came up about the position, how much it paid, what type of roles they do. So I think you just have to play it all the way around. You have to research what you're trying to get into and make sure you know exactly what it is when you go into the interview. Make sure you play on your skills, make sure you're networking and talking to people, and make sure you're building organic relationships with people.
Thank you, Shaniqua. So it sounds like you need to use your transferable skills a lot of times. You're trying to get involved in entry-level positions in clinical research. And also, let me see, Rakia.
So for my start, I actually started off as a pharmacy technician. I had gotten my undergrad degree in chemistry. And after graduating, I worked in lab and realized that wasn't really the route that I wanted to take. And with me working in pharmacy, I ended up going back to school and I got a graduate certificate in biotechnology and regulatory affairs. And that's where I learned about clinical research. And once I finished that up, I decided to try to get a job in clinical research. And I followed some of the advice from my professor. And I got on LinkedIn one day, looked at some of her connections, and I talked to similar people who had like similar degrees that I had and interests. And I remember a guy told me, he was like, "This is for you." And he told me about Black Women in Clinical Research through LinkedIn. So once I joined on LinkedIn, and later I just kept applying for jobs. And I ended up getting a job transferring departments, and I became a clinical data coordinator. Depending on who you speak with, data manager, learned a lot about the field and the job. And I realized I wanted to do a little bit more. I wanted to really try to find my niche and my fit. And from there, I ended up joining Black Women in Clinical Research through Facebook. And I networked a lot. I talked to a lot of different individuals just about some of my interests. And I got different opinions on how I could still use pharmacy and how I could still stay involved with clinical research. And from there, for me, upon networking a lot, asking a lot of questions, paying more attention to what I did on my day-to-day, and those skills and how I could transfer that to an entry-level position, that ultimately landed in a couple interviews and how I got my job today.
Okay. So this, to me, like listening to the both of you guys, and a member recently posted this in the group, getting a career in research involves research. So you have to do your work before, if you don't have, I would say, experience in the clinical research industry. So making sure that you have a plan and putting together, like they both put together their transferable skills in their resume, and, networking with people, and, joining Black women in clinical research. I do have a little bit quick story though, with both of them. Like when I saw that Shaniqua, I think it was Andrika, correct me if I'm wrong. Andrika was like, hey, this is the lady named Shaniqua. She was like, go get her. I'm like, okay, let me go talk to Shaniqua and tell her about Black women in clinical research. And even with me and Rakia, we talked on LinkedIn before you accepted your new position, and just, having that network and getting different opinions from people in the industry, that really helps you when you're trying to get into clinical research. So my next question is, how do you prioritize your tasks? Shaniqua?
I think what I use most, I'm still old school. I still use pen and paper. But the first thing I do is probably set what's due first. I think about, I set it by what I have due, and then I'll probably set it by what impacts others, because that's where it starts to get tricky. If something's late that impacts the CTM or the CRA, then of course that impacts how you look in doing your job. So you just have to know what you're doing and making sure that you're doing the first things first, the things that would impact others. I use Outlook because that's what most positions uses Outlook to make sure we manage our calendar. So in case you have meetings, I do use OneNote. I just started using OneNote probably within the last maybe about 8 or 9 months, and now I love it. So I use OneNote a lot to take notes and keep my sites. Any information I find out about my sites, I type into OneNote under that site so that I can remember, because you'll never remember everything because there's so much information. Then I have a general tab just to, like when I first got started, I had just common words because I didn't know common words. There's a lot of acronyms in clinical research. So I started just a tab of acronyms. And that OneNote is so priceless. I passed when I passed my OneNote over to the other CTC when they were coming in. That OneNote is so priceless, and it helped her so much because she was new to clinical research too. But it helps you out because you can't remember everything that someone tells you. If someone tells you something about the site, I go right in and I type it under that site so that I can remember. But I think OneNote, my calendar, and pen and paper are pretty much how I kind of prioritize by what's due first, and then what affects others.
I can definitely agree. Like, especially if my clinical trial lead reaches out to me like, Danielle, I'm like, let me do this first. And I love OneNote also. Like once I found OneNote and knowing that I can put, like I can put tables and charts in my OneNote, and then there's a button that you can click that will send it to your email. And you don't have to try and organize it in your email, because a lot of times you try and do that in your email, it looks very distorted and everything. So thank you so much. Rakia, how do you stay organized?
I have not used OneNote yet. I need to try that. But I'm the same way. I actually figure out just basically by deadlines and how it's going to affect others. And I write a lot of my stuff down, and I also use Outlook, and I set little reminders for myself. I also write down if I've started something today and it can kind of wait, I know I need to follow up on that, like little by little, the closer I get. So that's really the best thing that I do, just what's the most important, writing it down. And then I just constantly check my notes to see hey, if I follow up on this, if I haven't, I need to put a star by that or cross it off if I've done it.
Yeah, I know Outlook too, like has so many different tools. You can set reminders for yourself and even for your team. So they get notified on different tasks that you have, and you can even have it to where you color code. Like if you have an email that's coming from your line manager, you can color code that to make sure, okay, every time this comes in, this is going to be pink, blue, green, whatever, works for you. So I do find a lot of that stuff very helpful in the tools. So thank you, ladies, so much. So I am going to hand it over to Rashida.
Thank you. So I'm going to echo what Danielle said about doing research to get into research. And I love that both of you had that type of energy to go out, find what you wanted, look up things, talk to people, and really try and figure out where you want it to be. I think for a lot of people who are just entering the industry, the first thing is, hey, I have this background skill. How can I apply it? And it's like, you can apply it in a lot of different ways, but there is some initial point to where you have to figure out, based on all of the positions that are out there, what do you think that you want to do? And I think some people miss that really key part. Like, we can help you all that we can, but if you don't necessarily kind of do that initial work to know where you want to get into, it's a little more challenging for us to try and figure that out for you. So I think having that part down pat prior to even reaching out to people to kind of know where you want to start, even if it's like an arbitrary position, right? So say you say, oh, I see a clinical trial coordinator, seeing a recruiter that has posted that position and just reaching out to them to say, hey, I see this role, I may be interested, I have, transferable skills. Would you mind getting on the phone and chatting a little bit about it? Things like that really do go a long way. And once you're at the top of people's minds, especially if they're posting positions, or for myself, if I see someone else post something, I'm like, oh yeah, so-and-so just messaged me the other day, let me just forward this to them, or I saw this, let me text. Like, I do that all the time. So if you can continue to stay active with the network that you're building in these groups, it's going to get you a lot of different places. So thank you for, both of you giving us that background.
I agree. And one thing to that too, Rashida, is I applied, the first position I applied for, well, I think it was the first one, but one of the first ones that I got an interview for, I'll say, no, it's horrible. It went terrible. I mean, I was begging for the position pretty much, and it did not fit my skill set. And then about 2 weeks later, I had the interview for Ctc, and it went great, but it fit my skill set. So I could speak to that, and I could speak to that recruiter and speak to the managers who was interviewing me. I could speak to what they were needing, but I couldn't speak to, I think it was a project specialist, because I had no clue what a project specialist did. I didn't have any of the lingo to talk about a project specialist. I had never been nothing with project, but with Ctc, it was talking about administrative skills. I definitely had my administrative skills. And it also helps you in your interview because you have more confidence. When you're talking about something that you can do, you come across confident. When you're talking about something that you want, you come across needy. Like, I want the position, I'm begging for the position.
And yeah, and you have to present yourself as, you guys actually need me and my skill set, and I bring a lot to the table, and these are the reasons why, this is my experience and all that. So you're definitely right about that. Thank you. So kind of along the lines of prioritizing tasks, when you transitioned from your previous role to the trial coordinator or assistant role, what were some of the things that you had to do to stay organized? So I know, Shaniqua, you said you now use OneNote, but like that transition period, how did you kind of change your pace to ensure that you were as organized as you could be? Or did you have to reach out to someone to help get that organization down pat for you?
It was a balancing act because, of course, all of it was new to me. But luckily, I started on a study that was in startup, so it moved kind of slow. So I had a notebook, and I just kept everything in my notebook. And anything that I would get, I had a Ctc lead. So he was pretty much leading the study. And even though he was leading, I was doing the work. So he's just there in case I did not know what to do. But I just wrote everything down. I had a notebook, and that notebook was like the Bible for that position. So I wrote any and everything. If he talked to me, if he'd if we'd have a meeting on Outlook, I mean on Teams, I would record it. And because it may go fast and you don't understand everything, and you don't want to say, hey, I don't know what you're saying, or I don't know this. Um, and it's okay if you don't and you do say it, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to stop, so I would record it, and I go back and I Google, or I look through any type of notes we had, or I look on the website to see if I knew what that was or if I could find it, and then if I couldn't find it, I would go back to him. But also that I mean, when you don't know something and you start looking for it, you find other things and you start developing, and you find out, oh, that goes with that. And you start, connecting the puzzle. So it helps you when you do your own work, when you do your own footwork, and not just asking for, someone to help you with everything. But I mainly recorded our meetings. I wrote down a lot of stuff. I didn't try to just remember. I made sure if it was something very important, I would go to him before I would do it. Because I didn't want to put something in CTMS that's not correct. And then our lead would see it. But if it's something that's not going to affect anyone, I would just do it and say, hey, now check it. And it kind of gives you your foot to see, what you have and what you don't. So I think it's a balancing act. You just have to, you have to see what you're doing and figure out where you're comfortable at. Take as many notes as possible, do as much research on your own as possible, connect as many dots as possible, and then the puzzle comes together.
Yeah, I like that advice. Rakia, what about you? How did you stay organized when you first transitioned from your other role?
Ooh, for me, we actually had like a lot of trainings. So even when we had our live trainings, I literally wrote everything down. And in our chat, we would ask questions. But I also had some of my group members to lean on, where we would actually chat each other and be like, hey, did you get this? Or people would just ask random questions. And sometimes some of those questions, those are some things that some of us also had as well. But we've also had live recordings that were recorded as well. So I think that was a very big help for me. And then we also, in our trainings, we had like vignettes and job aids. And we also just had the website where we could just look up, hey, what is this? What is that? And so I just wrote down a lot of my stuff, asked a lot of questions. And I also would bookmark some of those trainings to save for later, just in case I'm like, oh, I think I need to look back at that again.
Yeah, I still do that now. Like if we have a refresher training or a new training and I feel like it's something that I'll definitely reference in the future, I will save it to my desktop so that I can reference it, especially when it comes to like a lot of the protocol documents. So like you have your protocol and then you have all of the manuals for the different systems you use. So I would always save it in a study folder so that I could quickly reference it. And then even though it takes work to get into research, it also takes work to stay in research. So yes. Making sure that you reference the materials that you have on hand. And that's really the great thing about clinical research, because everything is written down. Like most of the things that you need as far as information about your protocol, and typically most companies also have SOPs and work instructions. Reference those documents as much as you can, because that shows people that you have initiative, that you're not just asking a question just to ask a question. And it also tells them that you're doing your own part and saying, hey, I referenced this document. I did not see this in there. Can you help clarify that? So that part goes a long way within the industry. So my next question is, what are some of the positions within clinical research that you work closely with? So I think it was Shaniqua, it was Rakia. You were saying that you work very closely with CRAs, right? And helping them with some of their site management tasks. What other roles do you work closely with as well?
I also work closely with the project managers and the clinical leads.
What about you, Shaniqua? Because I know you said study startup is one of the things. So do you work with heavily more on like the regulatory side, or what are some?
Because my study was in startup, I worked with startup a lot because they had to hand the sites over to clinical. So I worked with startup a lot because just where my study was. I don't think every clinical I don't think all the CTCs work with study startup.
Okay.
But I work mainly with my CRA, RSM, that's a remote site monitor, my CTM, and project manager.
Okay, that makes sense. So then are both of you are within those roles, were you on the sponsor side or the CRO side for
CRO.
those? Okay, and then same for you, Rakia?
CRO side.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So within the CRO side, and I think a lot of us within the groups are very heavy in on the CRO side. What are some of the systems that you had to use just in the or have to use within your role?
So I use CTMS. I was using Viva Vault to file. CTMS was just our tracking system. And that's the, what is it? Clinical trial management system.
Management system.
Yeah, clinical trial management system. And that was pretty much just a tracking system. That was more if someone from the study wanted to know if we have, instead of going to the file, they wanted to know if we had an up-to-date medical license on the PI. They could go into the study and see when the, what date the medical license expired, what state. So they can get a lot of information from CTMS without going to the file. That was Viva Vault. I used Excel a lot because I made pivot tables and other type of Excel spreadsheets in order to keep up with the study and also to give to my line manager because we tracked our metrics. So, but tracking the study, I used Excel, CTMS, and Viva Vault.
Yes, Excel is so huge in our industry. We got trackers for trackers for trackers. So if you don't have the Excel background, there are so many resources that are free.
On YouTube. Yeah, you can go to YouTube and get everything. You can learn to make a pivot table on YouTube.
Yes, you can. And you can also learn how to do VLOOKUP on YouTube.
Yep, VLOOKUP, Oscar. Yes.
Rakia, what about you? What systems do you typically use?
So I'm currently using Trial Interactive, and I use Excel on the daily. I'm also using Microsoft Word, and another big one, if I'm in the EDC, I'm using eCase Links or I'm using Metadata Rave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Metadata Rave is one of the more common CRFs, which is a clinical, it's where sites enter the patient information, and that's also where CRAs go to validate information based on the source or the medical records that the sites provide for their particular research subjects. I also want to add in Viva TMF, or just Viva period, is a big one. So TMF is a trial master file, and that is essentially where you're electronically filing all of your clinical trial documents. So that is your study startup documents. So like all of the 1572s, so all the regulatory documents outside of any patient subject information is housed within the trial master file. And then that's also where trip reports are. That's where most of the trial information is housed in that one place. And then a lot of the times, if you are working with TMF, you may be assigned a role to where you can be the person to upload those documents. So you have to make sure that you're reviewing the documents and that they have the Alcoa standards, which is making sure that you have all your pages, making sure that it's very clear, legible, that it has a date, that there are no blank spaces. If there are blank spaces, you have to kind of, go back and forth and making sure that the document that you add is a full intact document. So yeah, those are great systems that you have to come in contact pretty much on a daily basis. And like I said, I think most of those have very really good information online for you to get any kind of background skill. I tend to tell people, don't say that you don't know how to do something. Tell people that you can find it out. Or if you see something in a job description, you don't know what the acronym means, Google it, look it up, do a little YouTube video or just an article or two, just so you can have background knowledge. Because even if you don't have hands-on knowledge, you can have background knowledge to speak about what the system is for, right?
Right.
And with that, I am going to hand it over to Endrika.
Man, I tell you, I use YouTube almost every day. When my manager says, I need you to do this in Excel, and VLOOKUP was one of them, I go straight to YouTube and type it in and learn on the spot. That's what you guys have to be, avid learners, right? It's not that we don't know how to do it or we can't learn how to do it. We're going to learn how to do it, right? You're going to do what you got to do to get where you are today. Okay, so we've heard about some of the challenges that you faced in entering the clinical research industry. And now, although you don't have direct skills, you may have transferable skills. And if all of you on the call don't know, again, that the CTC and what was the other position called? CTA roles are basically entry-level roles for people who don't have clinical research experience. So can you tell me about any of the challenges that you face being in this role?
I think it was pretty, I mean, it's not a hard role. The only thing, I had a lead CTC, and he would accept tasks that are really not our task because he's not doing it, but it made him look better, but I was doing the role. I was actually doing the work, but that was okay because I learned a lot. He would accept some tasks that were like, I was like, why are you accepting this? And they're kind of like, oh, we don't even think you're supposed to do this, but if you have time, can you do it? And he's like, yeah, we can do it. So, it was like, but those tasks helped me because I would, let's say the CTM asked for something. He accepted it, but he's not really doing the work. So I would have to directly talk to the CTM, which gave me direct contact with the CTM that I probably would not talk to her as much. So we built a relationship. I built a rapport with her. So when I left, she wrote an excellent, I forgot, my line manager reached out to her or something, but she wrote something about how I would volunteer when it wasn't my job, all sorts of stuff that she wrote that really stood out, and it's in my record now. Because he said that would go as like my, I think it was my exit interview or something. And that information is there. But at first I was kind of like, oh, wait a minute, this is not my job, not out loud, but to myself, like, wait a minute, you're accepting all of this stuff. But it really built my skills. The more stuff he accepted, the more that I would have to dig and find out how to do this or where to do it, or so I think that was probably the most challenging because the first thing that comes in your head is to say, hey, I know that's not my job. I could be done at 12. Now you have me working till 5, but that's probably the most challenging thing that I found.
Okay. What about you, Rakia?
I think the biggest challenge is being comfortable with growing. And when I say that, it's you being in a new setting and you're having to realize you're going to have to reach out and ask more questions. You're not going to know everything. And in your previous role, you might be spoon-fed and you might be used to someone training you, showing you, hey, this is how you do this is how you do that. There are going to be times where there are some people who are better teachers than others. And at the end of the day, the task still has to be done. And if the task isn't done, that's going to fall back on you, especially if you're assigned to that task. So I think the biggest thing is learning to be uncomfortable, but learning that it's okay to ask questions. And if there's something that you don't know, somebody else probably doesn't either. And it's okay to ask and be like, hey, do you mind showing me this? I literally had a situation today. I had to send out multiple emails regarding some site outreach. And a CRA reached back out to me and they were just like, hey, well, I've done this already. And I was like, oh, it's okay. I understand. It's just something I have to do. I know you're doing a great job. And they were like, yeah, we're on the same team. Thank you for that. And I literally sat back and I said, I've sent the same email, but about a different site to the same CRA multiple times. How can I fix that? I said, hey, is there an easier way to do this? I would hate to pity you with multiple emails. CRA literally just told me, hey, this is all you have to do. Ping me a little screenshot. And that definitely helped me out. So I know next week, my job will be a lot easier. They'll have the information that they need with less emails.
Yes.
Wow, that's so good. So also, as Shanique was saying, sometimes we wear many hats and roles, but I don't consider this always a bad thing because it allows you to gain certain experience that you wouldn't have otherwise, right? And so you were able to build those relationships with people and get a great recommendation. So that is amazing. So don't be afraid to wear many hats. I know sometimes, you know, when we get to certain levels in our position, we don't have the bandwidth for it, so we have to say no to things. But, you know, just use your discernment. We spoke about that in the group. If you are in the group, what are you doing? Join. So with this being, again, an entry-level role, and with the skills that you've gained in this position, what sort of roles can you transition into from here? Shaniqua?
You can, there's plenty. We actually had a chart to show us different roles. The way they kind of want you to grow is from CTC to RSM to CRA is kind of the path. But I've seen people go from CTC to a line manager, or from a CTC to all the way to a CTM. But it just depends on their skill, their background. So they have to know, you have to know what you can handle, and where they're coming from, what type of transferable skills they have. But if you're looking to go, I think it could go all different ways because it's a very base and foundational position. It gets you comfortable with essential docs. It gets you comfortable with all of the wording for clinical research. You're kind of touching, I touch the study startup side, I touch CRA side, I touch the management side. So you kind of see, you know, what fits for you. So I think it could grow into a lot of positions, probably positions that I don't even know about, but the direct ones I would know would be a RSM, which is like an in-house CRA, a CRA, a line manager, or CTM eventually. Those are eventually, but directly, probably the next step would be a RSM.
And for those of you who don't know, RSM, Remote Site Monitor, is a specific title at PPD. I don't know if other companies have that title. Yeah, not that I know of either. So I just want to make that clear for those of you who's watching and don't know. Rakia, what about you? Do you have anything to add about potential roles you can move into?
For me, I think there's nothing wrong with looking to see where else you can go and grow. But you can also be in-house CRA, senior CRA. You can also go into project management, becoming a clinical lead. You can even transfer those skills and move into data, going into being a clinical data coordinator, as well as data manager. And even going into safety review if you're into looking at the EDC and want to go to more of that pharmacovigilance side as well.
Nice. So there's a ton of opportunities for advancement. So last question for you all. So what advice do you have for someone interested in getting into the CTC or CTA position, or into the clinical research industry in general?
Do your homework. No one, I don't think anyone in the group minds helping. Like everybody, anyone who reaches out to me, they know I'll help. I try my best, but everyone's busy. So just like we were talking about with the position, because you're going to have to do that once you get the position too. You have to do your research. When you go to the person, like already have your resume ready. If you want to, let's say you want a referral, don't just get in the inbox and say, hey, will you refer me? The person doesn't know, they don't know you from Adam. They don't know anything about you. Introduce yourself, give them a little background, and send your resume. So that means your resume has to be, it must be ready. So that means you need a resume review first. So get your resume reviewed. You don't know how fast it will move. They could refer you. You could have an interview tomorrow. Already have your interview prep. So all the skills that are already there, all of the, not skills, all of the tools that are already there in Black women in clinical research, use those tools while you don't have to have a job yet. You don't have to have an interview yet. Use your tools before it comes so that you don't have to get ready if you're already ready. So when they call and you're already ready, you've already talked to Andrika, your resume is sitting on go and they're just waiting for you to shoot it. Because if you see someone on LinkedIn, they don't want it. When they say, hey, okay, yeah, oh, you're interested in the position, shoot me your resume. They don't mean 3 days later. They mean shoot me your resume. So it has to be on go. I saw someone else talking about it in the group, have your talking points, like sell yourself. Hey, these are my strengths. This is my background. So you're ready to talk to the person. Because sometimes the recruiters will jump on the phone with you. Hey, you got 30 minutes in about an hour. So you don't have time. Andrika's working. So you don't have time to ping her and say, can you do an interview prep with me because I have to talk to a recruiter in an hour? No. Say that's going to be a big no. So just do your homework. I drowned myself in clinical research because I had no background in clinical research. So I took the class I said with Dan. I also I took a class at Wake Tech that Danielle told me about. What is it? Monitoring clinical trials. Because there's a lot of words and acronyms and information that he gives you. Read everything you can find about clinical research, the entry level, type it in Google, network. And also I say sincere, like be genuine with your networking. If the only thing you do is jump in people's inbox and say, hey, I want to get in, but I can't. I mean, we're still going to help, but, you're kind of not going to be at the forefront of everyone's mind. I think Rashida said that when people give her a background, when she sees something on LinkedIn, she's like, oh, Susie said she needed a job like this or whatever. So she tags that person or she reaches out to that person. So I'll say networking. It was one more point. Can't think of anything else. So I'll turn it over to Rakia.
I think the biggest thing that I can say is, for one, don't give up. As Shaniqua said, stay ready so that you don't have to get ready. I think with networking, you want to be genuine. Ask a lot of questions. Try to find someone who you think in general has some of those same clinical, that has that role that you want, and you have those clinical research aspirations. Mm-hmm. Definitely ask those questions, be genuine. I also say don't be afraid of criticism. You can have a resume review and Drika might write all over it. Be okay with that, because that's what's going to help you to grow. And it also gives you that chance. Maybe I need to hone in on these skills some more. That's a big thing. And I'll also say, someone, don't be afraid to ask questions. Someone might have the same question that you do, and you never know how that can help someone. Let's see. Oh my goodness, there's so much.
I have one too, mindset. This is not really it's not directly clinical research, but you need to change your mindset. And that comes with reading information. You'll see gems that I know Andrika throws out, and it's more about working on yourself. And that may be on her Instagram, I'm not sure, but she talks a lot about working on yourself. And it's your mindset. Like, you have to change. If every day you talk to the same person, and I can't get in clinical research, this is the hardest thing I can do. I can't get in. I can't. Go to another person, please. You cannot listen to that every single day and talk about I can't, and wonder why you can't get in. Like, and it's okay to complain. Like, you can have a gripe, you can rant. I mean, I'm not saying don't say the truth, don't say what you're feeling, because if you go back and look at my post, I put stuff in there like, this is, oh my God, before I could even send in a apply for a job, I would get a no.
The chocolate one, she wants chocolate.
So I would just
no, Shane, can you mute your mic, please?
Done.
I would say change your mindset. So start reading stuff, like work on yourself. Start working on your mindset and positive mindset, because I could show you a notebook where I was writing down the positions that I would have, and this was before I got the position. And that depends on your faith and all different stuff, but you figure out your faith and how you do it. But I wrote down things that I would be and where I would be and the dates that I would be in those positions. And that was way before I got the position. And I remember I used to talk to Andrika and Danielle, and I'm like, Black women in clinical research, but I'm not in clinical research. And I was just so happy the day I posted, I said, I'm finally a Black woman in clinical research, So You have to you have to have that positive self-talk, and you have to have like affirmations, whatever you use. I can't tell you exactly what to use, whatever your faith is, but get deep rooted in your faith and believe that it can happen for you. It's just not happening for the next person. It's just not happening for her. It can happen for you. This industry is booming right now. So if you're getting interviews and you're not getting the job, it's you. You have to go to your interview prep, go to your resume, see what's wrong, talk to some people and say, hey, because I'm gonna tell you, the first time Andrika said something to me about she said, hey, I'm gonna call you today, or you call me or whatever, and we're gonna go through some interview questions. I didn't want to talk to her about it. That's so embarrassing, because I was like, I don't know any of this stuff. Dan did the same thing. Danielle did the same thing. And they wanted to talk to me and see, hey, so if the recruiter says this, what are you going to say? And, it's better to make those mistakes with her. And it's someone else. I can't remember who else interview preps. I hate keep calling Andrika, but it's better to make those mistakes with that person, because they can throw off and tell you what to do. Okay, if you get stuck right there, do this. This is what they're looking for right here. Go study this. There are even videos. Go to YouTube. They tell you exactly how to interview. They tell you how to set up your camera. They tell you where it should be and what kind of lighting and how to set it up and what to say and how to answer the question. So, okay, I digress.
No worries.
I was definitely just gonna say.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just definitely gonna say, just to be hungry and be okay with taking a different approach when it comes to reaching out, networking, and to also do the NIDA training. That's also a great GCP course. That's a refresher. So
yep, somebody drop that link in the chat. Drop that free link in the chat. I just wanted to say, yes, you really have to change your mindset. And if you know me, if you've spoken to me in my messages, and you come in my messages with something negative early in the morning, I'd be like, what we're not going to do is come before noon. It's not even noon yet. And you're in here with negative thoughts. So I said, gather your loins and come back to me when you're ready, right? I literally talk to you all like that. Keep it real with you, because the world will eat you up. It will eat you up, right? So be positive, right? Tell yourself that you can do this. You can enter this clinical research industry. It is for you. There's a position here for you. And if you haven't gotten the calendar, I literally created the calendar all around positive thinking. There's affirmations for every month. So go and purchase your calendar. It's on the website. And Danielle, back over to you.
Thank you, ladies. Andrika for the plug, the calendar. So we are going to dive into questions. We want to hear from you. It's easier if you can raise your hand versus us trying to scroll through the chat. So if you want to go ahead and raise your hand, we can start with answering any questions. Okay, and before we answer the first question, I'm just going to say, you guys got me hyped up. Like every time we have these meetings, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. What can I accomplish now in my job? Like, you know, yeah. And so I'm so thankful for everyone and for you guys to, pour into us. And, like you don't even know, even if it's not a CTC position, related, other people who are in other positions in the industry can definitely relate to this, and this can help them with their own career if they're trying to level up. Because a lot of times, I'm just being honest, we get comfortable in our position and we don't always go to the next level, even though we have those years of qualifications. So this can definitely motivate anyone in the room who is at the point in their career where they're trying to decide what's my next move. So thank you, ladies, for the motivation. I mean, I'm hyped up now. Like I'm about to open up my work computer. No, I'm just playing. Okay, so Tiffany, we have a question from you. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for actually scheduling this. This has been really interesting. I enjoyed it. I have a question regarding, is it good if you have clinical quality assurance experience? I'm getting ready to start a project, and they asked me what is it I'm looking to do in the future, and I mentioned CRA role, CTA role, and then I was also thinking probably also still clinical quality associate. But with that type of experience, would that be good for the clinical trial or clinical trial coordinator or CRA position?
So had a little bit of trouble hearing you, but I think you were saying you have clinical quality assurance experience. And
Yes, so hi, can you hear me better now?
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. So yeah, I'm getting ready to start a project and I will be learning more about clinical quality assurance. So I'm wondering, is that good experience to have for a CTA, a CRA, or yeah, type of role? I'm just trying to make sure I'm doing everything right.
Yeah, within clinical research, I mean, quality is key for everything. I mean, that's literally within every role. As a CTC CRA, one of your main purposes is to ensure that sites are audit ready, meaning you want to make sure that they have everything that they need, and not just the amount of things that they need, but that it's up to the quality and the standards that we have within the industry. My question to you is the quality assurance more on the lab side, or is it like documentation specific to clinical
It's going to be
research?
more, it's going to be more administrative. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say I work for a sponsor, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that goes hand in hand with the CRA role, because that's what you do. You go on site and you ensure that the site has what they need, and they have the standards that you're looking for within clinical research. So I say dive all the way in there, because that's going to help you and your skills in whatever position you have. And then I would say, like, putting it at the top of your resume or within your, I mean, some people have different thoughts about this, but I always have kind of a summary at the top of my CV or resume to really hone in on some of the skills that I feel are very pertinent to whatever role that I am applying for. And quality assurance is something that you want to highlight like nobody's business on your resume within clinical research. So yes,
Awesome.
great to do.
Thank you.
Also, I'm gonna piggyback off of Rashida. Another thing is, I don't think that it's like one thing that gets you ready for another, because they're gonna train you. I don't care what position. I know before I got another role, got the CRA role. They said it was so hard to get. It was very hard. It was not as easy as it is right now. It's a little easier to get into, but also I think the reason it's easier is because every role you have to train for. You have to be trained for any role that you take. So it's about selling yourself in the interview that they think you could at least do the position. So I think it's like studying the role, making sure it's something that will fit you and you like it, and selling yourself in that position, because they're going to train you to do whatever it is to do. I've been trained in every position. I couldn't just go in and do it. I had to be trained.
Thank you, ladies. So the next question we have, and apologies if I say your name incorrectly, Aziza?
Aziza.
Okay, first one was right. Okay.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
I want to say great job, everybody. Y'all don't know, but this is something that I needed. I've had people in my ear for the last 2 years, like, hey, you need to get to it, get to it. This is what you want to do. You need to get to it, get to it. My question, which it was kind of answered but bounced around, is for a person like myself, my background is biology and chemistry. My master's is public health. Someone that started in industry, but more on the oil and gas laboratory side. Once that failed, things happen. Getting back in, I've had a hard time getting back to the sciences, if that makes sense. Because I converted to a business side and like an administrative role in accounting. So nothing, no accounting degree, no nothing. Kind of just, like Shaniqua, like she said, they're gonna teach you whatever role that you're going into, bring you. You ladies mentioned courses, not per se maybe to even pay for, but to look through and everything. Are there courses out there for, I wouldn't even say like I guess a fast track, because some of the terminology, I know that's just because I have friends, male and female, in clinical research. I look at stuff on my own, but I don't think I know it, but I don't know how to, I guess, present it to, you know, the jobs and things that I'm looking at and doing my research. And I'm like, you know, what do you do with someone that has the on paper background, but not, of course, the on hands background? And it's been a long time. Like, I've been out of school, undergrad, for almost 10 years, 15 years now.
What roles are you applying for?
Ones that were, I will say, it was out of my league because I didn't know that. I didn't even know the the CTC, CTA and everything. So now that I know that the roles I'm in accounting, I could easily transfer to these roles.
Mm-hmm.
So that is now what I'm catering my look into and research into, because I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh, I can get in, let me go do this. They need this. I'm that person, and selfishly and ashamedly to say, yes, I did do that. And of course, I'm not getting anything back because that's not what, you know, hey, we know you can do all this. We see your background. We also see that you have gone to accounting, from a biology degree to accounting, to working in the lab to accounting. So, you know, so it's all over the place. And
my degree is in accounting also. I mean, my degree is in accounting.
Oh, I didn't even know anything about business. Like,
yeah, my degree is in accounting, but I got in. I think, and I'm sure Rashida will speak more to it, but I think it's tailoring, like she asked, what position. It's like, you have to see what, like, they give the keywords in the job description to me.
mm-hmm.
So what they're looking for is usually in that job description. So I always Googled whatever was in the job description if I didn't understand it or I talked to someone about it. But usually the job description gives off exactly what they're looking for. And I would get someone to help me tailor my resume to that position, and just making sure you want to do it, because it's a lot of positions. You have to make sure that's what you're going to want to do also.
Right,
so
right.
you tailor it, and then you sell yourself at the interview, because you're going to get trained once you get the position, but you have to sell yourself at the interview and tailor that resume.
Right.
I would say also, for the accounting background, contracts and budgets can be a very lucrative role for you. Contracts and budgets, business analyst,
site payments.
Yeah,
reimbursement, stipends.
Say that again.
Reimbursements and stipends.
Mm-hmm. So when you're applying, also make sure that you take an extra step to see if you can connect with any of the recruiters that work for whatever company you're applying for, because a lot of the times they're very readily available to get somebody on the phone. Even for what we would consider like entry level, they still have those roles that they need to fill. Mm-hmm. I would say, if you are looking online, try temp agencies. It's not Aerotech anymore. I think it's Act Talent, ACTALENT.
Mm-hmm.
But those are really good transitional companies to get your foot in the door with clinical research, and then you can prove yourself within the role, or you can learn other positions while you're in the role. But like, don't count out temp agencies. I know some people get nervous, like it's just a contract, or I won't get benefits. And it really depends on the role. It depends on the actual contracting company, because you can get benefits and time off depending on all of that. So don't just look for the CRO roles. Also, with your science background, I mean, going to the sponsor side, so looking up all of maybe the top, 15 pharmaceutical companies within the US, Google that and go to each of their job websites and just kind of spend, a weekend going through all of their positions within each of the departments to see, what kind of skills you have that kind of match what they have. And like Shaniqua said, they are going to train you on everything. They just want to know that you have the aptitude to do the work, and that you're able to, you know, talk and get in there, because that's really what it's about, getting in there.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you said you wanted to freshen up a bit on the acronyms and everything. The Night of GCP training is very good as well. It's a free course.
Yes.
So I was going to add to that. So there also is a business side, you know, in the clinical research industry. So, you know, everyone's journey is different. Just because someone else might have started as a CTC role doesn't mean that, you know, you can use your skills that you have, and feel free to talk to people in that business, like the business recruiters with the CRO. There's, like Rashida was saying, there's the business analyst. So don't count your experience out. Use all the tools and resources. Reach out to any and everyone. Reach out to us if you need for us to connect you. I know recruiters that are just kind of working on the business side, but yeah, use all your skills that you have to transition into this position. You know, a lot of times, and we say this all the time, that CRA role, like that's what everyone focuses on. And a lot of times we don't explore the different career opportunities that's available to us. And so there's so many different positions that, you know, finance and money and, you know, with your background and your skills that you can use. So let's see, we have probably gonna take maybe 1 or 2 more questions because we're going a little bit over our time. But I hope that answers your question. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. Okay, Christian.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had a quick question for Shaniqua. I personally just transitioned into a CTC role myself. I'm actually a good friend of Rakia's. So enlightening to hear her share her story to everyone on the call. Shaniqua, I just had a quick question regarding your transition from the CTC role to the CRA role. And I just wanted to kind of pick your brain very vaguely in terms of what skills did you bring from your CTC role to incorporate as a CRA?
Honestly, I'm gonna have to give a shout out to Kiki on this one, Kiki Hicks. I was not going to apply for CRA yet because most people told me that I needed to wait to be in the entry level role for at least a year or so. And Kiki got a position and I said, congratulations. That was it. I said, congratulations. She inboxed me and said, go apply. Just out the blue, like she didn't know me. I mean, you know, we have been on LinkedIn. She said, go apply. And I was like, no, I don't have it. You know, I only have this amount of experience. She said, go apply. And it happened. That's all. I mean, it literally, like, you never know. It's about skill. I mean, it's about interviewing. It's just about the right timing, the right recruiter, the right managers because you can get a manager. One of the managers who interviewed me said that she was ready to get off because it was the end of the day and she just didn't have much time. So it went really quickly. So, I mean, sometimes I really can't tell you anything that I did any different. I did get some great referrals and recommendations, like I said, because I worked my CTC position. I worked it. Let me back up. So with the CTC position, I took a huge pay cut to get into the industry. So I was doing a lot of stuff, and Danielle talks about this too, but I was doing Instacart, I was doing Spark driving, I was doing a lot of stuff on the side, but I also was shining in that CTC role. Like I was asking for stuff to do. I talked to my line manager. If she spoke into the group or whatever, I always talk back. I just shine. Some people maybe call it butt kissing. I don't know what they would call it, but I just made sure she knew who I was because we're sitting behind a computer. We're not in an office. So they can't see you. They can't build a rapport with you like we would in an office. So how do you do it behind the computer? You have to reach out and show them who you are, talk to them, have a conversation. And when we're in our one-on-ones, I made sure I had conversation with them. So it's just about building it, and you have to build it just genuinely as who you are. So you have to figure out, how to get in there. I really don't know that I did anything special except for apply, and I was ready because I had my resume done by Black Women in Clinical Research. I had already had a I'd already had my interview prep with Andrika, and I was just ready.
I wanted to add to that for a quick second. I'm not going to take too much time, but I wanted to say when she says that she doesn't know what she did, I can tell you exactly what she did. And she did just then, like she said, she wasn't even applying for jobs and her resume was already done. She wasn't applying for jobs and she already had her interview prep. She wasn't applying for jobs and her LinkedIn stood out to me. I had already gotten the role, an in-house CRA to CRA1 role. I went on her page and I saw that she was in, and again, I'm not saying these roles have to stay entry level, they can go up to senior, but I saw that she was in an entry level clinical research role, but I knew that there was something about her to where I knew she could land the job. So that's what she did. And I just encourage everybody to look at her LinkedIn, look at Rakia's LinkedIn, see how they carry themselves on there. And when you get to that point, people start reaching out to you. You don't even have to do the work. You do, but people come to you. I just want to say that little tidbit.
Yes, thanks.
That is absolutely true. Okay, so we have one more question. I believe Naomi, I'm not sure if she's still, Naomi? You're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the time you ladies have taken to explain all this to us. The question I wanted to ask, actually, Shaniqua answered it in her previous explanation. It was about the time, like when is the best time to start looking to level up if somebody is in an entry level position?
I don't really know the exact time because I was waiting and I was okay and I was settled in my position, but also, like I said, I was doing mindset stuff. I was already saying what position I wanted. I was already writing. I was already, saying this is what I want. So right now the market is so hot. I don't know how long to tell you to wait. You can apply. Also, recruiters will tell you what's wrong. I've had recruiters tell me, hey, it's not enough time, or you don't have enough experience, or your interview didn't go quite the way we would, I thought it would go. So they'll kind of tell you, like Danielle said, have that conversation. Also, talking to people within the group, they'll kind of tell you, especially if it's a company you're going to apply for. So let's say you're applying for ABC and you see that somebody works there and you say, hey, do you think I've been here long enough? Do you think I have enough experience? Because usually people within the company know kind of, but don't let that deter you either. Apply. You'll see. It's either going to be a yes or a no. Shoot your shot.
Shaniqua. And I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And this has been amazing, our speakers and my lovely co-hosts. But, some of the takeaways that, that I have from our meeting is that you have to put your best foot forward and you have to research, like a career in research involves research. So don't expect for people, people want to help you, but help us help you in a sense. Like don't come to the table empty handed. Come, even if your plate is not all the way full, have something on your plate, but don't come with nothing, because we want to help you. So a lot of times it's easier for us to help you if you have something to bring to the table where we can connect you with other people. And so, don't give up. This industry can be tough in the beginning. You will receive rejections, but this is all part of the process. And I feel like the rejections that I received in my career have helped me and mold me into, a well-rounded clinical research professional. And I'm so glad that we have had this meeting today. I'm hyped up. I don't know if you guys are, but I'm just extremely encouraged, and I'm so proud of Shaniqua and Rakia for, fighting through this, this tough industry in the beginning, because it can be difficult for someone that is just starting out in the industry. But as long as you are persistent, as long as you are networking, things will fall into place, and there's no certain time limit on when you get into the industry or when you move up to the next position. But continue to be strong and to reach out to people for support and ask questions, like Rakia was saying. So don't be afraid to ask questions. We are here to support you. We want you to win. There's enough opportunity in this industry for everyone. So whatever your background is, you can get involved in clinical research. So thank you again, everyone. Please feel free. We put everyone's LinkedIn information in the chat. Please feel free to drop your LinkedIn information if you want to connect with anyone here. I want to thank you again to Rashida, Andrika, Oh my goodness, Shaniqua, I'm hyped and out of breath. Like I'm like over here, like thinking how I'm about to take over the world. But yes, Rakia, thank you so much, ladies. And you have a good night. We can continue this conversation in the groups. But thank you again. And I can leave the chat up for a little while if people want to put their LinkedIn URL in